thank you so much for chatting with me today. Welcome to the Bodies Built Better podcast.
Yay. Thank you so much for having me, Jackie. I'm so excited to get to share and just jump right into it.
Yeah, me too. I've been a follower of yours for a little while now, and I feel like every time you post something, I learn something new about myself. It's just, I love it so much. I love your work, and I know people are going to get so much out of this one today. So, to dive in, let's hear about you and your journey in becoming a somatic intuitive healer.
Amazing. I think first, I love hearing the feedback that it's resonating for you, because that's really why I'm in this field doing what I do.
Yeah.
And there's this, there's this saying in the, mental health professional world that we become healers out of an attempt to heal ourselves.
For sure.
And that my road to somatics was really because of my own struggle, my own dissociation and separateness from my body, engaging in unsafe activities or, using substances or, really dissociating out of an attempt to get away from the discomfort that I was experiencing from being in my body, in my feelings. And when I discovered somatics, it was this like light bulb moment of like, oh my God, that's the thing I'm feeling. I don't feel in my body. It does feel overwhelming. And the more that I dove into it from different angles, both, from the educational system, getting my master's in this, but also from the more non-traditional sense, learning different modalities that are a little more holistic and a little more energy based. All of those, again, just was a light bulb that resonated with my experience. And I found the more that I have shared this with other folks, people like you are going, oh my gosh, that's it. That's it right there.
Exactly.
And I found that, I found so much joy in not only getting to facilitate that experience and use this tool to really help people heal and create healthier relationships with themselves, with their partners, etc. But also just I found so much joy in talking about it, in teaching and sharing this knowledge, because I think the more that we know, the more we dive into it, it sparks our curiosity. And if anything that I can do, whether that's personally or just the information of sharing, in a way, it's giving back to the Stephanie who so early on did not have that.
Yeah.
And so, each moment that I get that feedback, I feel so purposeful and fulfilled in that way of like, yeah, this is important.
Absolutely, it is. That's beautiful. Well, can you tell us a bit about what is actually somatic intuitive healing for those who don't know?
Absolutely. So let's break it down bit by bit. So the somatic piece, that word soma is Latin for body. And so somatic, we're looking at the sensory body-based experiences that you are having. And in particular, the way that pairs with your emotional and mental health. So the phrase that I like to use often is your body is a subjective participant in your life, not objective. And when we look at it from that lens, the subjectivity, your body has been impacted. It hasn't lived through these experiences with you. It has words to say about how it was affected in that life experience. So really that's the big piece of what we're doing in the work that I offer, is using the body language, experience, sensation to learn and get curious about your emotional health, your mental health, the coping mechanisms you're using, things like that. The intuitive piece is really more of the less traditional flavor that I've also practiced with, which is really a little harder to actually tangibly explain, because some of the intuition is what I'm feeling, is what I'm noticing and I'm sensing. And it really is this like extra flavor and skill that I've found to be able to attune to the person I'm working with or the group that I'm working with, and sometimes use my own sensations to help guide collectively us deeper in, them deeper in. And that can look like I had a session recently where the client was trying to explain an experience they were having, a sensation. And as I was sitting there, I felt nauseous. I felt like I could throw up if I felt into it all the way. And I paused with the client. I said, I just have to check in. I'm feeling nauseous right now. I feel like I could throw up. Is that what that feeling is? And their eyes widened and they lit up.
Wow.
They were like, oh my God, that's the feeling. It feels like ick and ew. But that's very hard to tangibly define in some
Yeah.
moments. And so that's the intuitive part of what I'm offering, is really the way I'm showing up in the room. And the healing is really our like big umbrella, right? Is that's what our big goal is here, is to deepen into the self-love, the growth, the compassion, so that we can, go back through our own experiences and give ourselves the things now that we didn't get then.
Oh, absolutely. There is just so much in everything you just said there. how how do you hone that skill of that intuition and that intuitive piece, like, for ourselves as well, like, that listen to your gut, you hear that a lot, and I feel like that's easier for people, for some than it is for others. How do you hone that skill?
Yeah, I think it's a really good question, because I think everyone has it.
Yeah.
It's a natural part of us. And it really, for me, has been about the way I was taught to do this work, was to do my work first. That before I was going to step in and facilitate for somebody else, the big question was, okay, but if you're going to ask them to do it, can you ask yourself to do that too? And that is way scary. It's so
Super.
hard. And that because of that, I am using, this thing I'm asking clients to do, sense into your body. What are the sensations you're noticing? Go deeper into that. I'm also doing that with them in the moment. And that's, I think, how we deepen our intuition, is by going deeper and deeper into ourselves. That part of what, this platform and brand has developed into has really been the acknowledgement that I'm actually out here doing this alongside you. I am by no means at the end of the road, but I'd like to share with you the tools that I've learned that
Yeah.
have made walking this road actually a little bit smoother. Not that there aren't still bumps, not that mountains don't suddenly
Exactly.
find their way, but that when I do see that mount, there is a sense of I have my own back. I do feel like I'm with me pretty often, even in experiences of like anger or sadness or shame or depression, like all of those variations. So often our first gut response is get it away from me,
Totally.
which makes so much sense. Those are hard, uncomfortable
Mhm.
feelings. And that's not to say that that's not my first response as well, but rather it's a flag on the plate. It's an invitation to say, why? Why do I have such a big get it away from me
Yeah.
response reaction? And to go towards that, actually, to go towards our shadow, to go towards ourselves in that moment. Oh, yeah.
That's
That
scary.
absolutely, it absolutely is. But that as we do that, what we're telling our body, what we tell our nervous system is, I will choose to be with you, even if it's scary, even if it's hard.
Wow.
And I think that's what really deepens our ability to trust our intuition, that this attuning that I'm doing in sessions isn't some wild radical skill, but actually a skill that everyone has the potential to do as you deepen into yourself. And I see the growth in my own ability in that way from when I started doing this work to today, and hope to continue to see it grow as well.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And that's so powerful, what you said about with your clients and going through that journey with them, because it's so scary to even contemplate that, you know, on your own, and then to have someone with you. I mean, that gives you, I guess, that strength and confidence to dive into the places that you certainly don't want to be going.
Absolutely. Yeah, the image that often comes to mind as I'm doing that work really is, there's this story of like the dark night of the soul, right? We walk into the dark forest of our experience, and that doing that by ourselves is horrifying because it's dark and there's sounds in the forest and I can't see where I'm going.
Yeah.
And what I'm saying in my work is I am willing to walk with you into that forest. I'm actually, I can bring my light with me. And as we go, maybe my light can help you find your matches. It can help you find where your light is. And that together we can learn this skill. We can use this tool so that you don't have to walk it alone.
Yeah, exactly. I think you know, it's interesting because I think there are people out there who, yes, most definitely have, you know, that something, they've experienced something. It's really obvious with those traumatic experience. And then there's those who don't actually know it, that, or they may have, you know, pushed it so far down, it's not even a part of life anymore. You don't even know it's there, and you go through life, you know, as yourself, as is. How do we know that we have this stuff? Like, how do we know that our body does contain traumas, however big or little they may be?
Absolutely. So I think it might be helpful first to establish like what would we call trauma? Like what is trauma classified as? Like how do I know if my experience counts? I think is
Yeah,
often the
absolutely.
question that I hear. And so trauma can really be defined as something that was too much or too little for too long.
Right.
And so that can be something huge and catastrophic, like losing a loved one, right? They were gone too quickly and there wasn't support or understanding of what was happening. Maybe it was an accident, whatever it was, there was a sharpness. And so that the too much, the quickness, too fast. Too little, we also see people who didn't have somebody emotionally attuned to them in their childhood. My mother never validated me. My father never listened. There wasn't enough of that thing that they needed, the attunement, the validation, the witnessing, the affirmation that your feelings are important. And so really the too much, too little, too long, too short, it paints this wider picture of trauma. Because I think previously, in past years, we've said, okay, well, this is big trauma. And it used to be, we called it big T trauma and little t trauma. But the more we learn about humans is it's not necessarily about the comparing. That actually doesn't help us because each of us are going to experience it differently. I've worked with siblings before where they've experienced the same household and have totally different experiences of that household. One, potentially what we would call trauma. The other one, not so much. Because it's about the way it impacts us, not the way that other people are saying it impacted us. So we're starting with that, right? That's what we're looking at when we talk about trauma. And then this question of, okay, how do I know if it's in my body? So back in, I want to say the 70s, Bessel van der Kolk was doing a lot of research around PTSD. And PTSD wasn't diagnosable previously before then because there was this understanding of, or this story of that's in your head. That's not actually happening right now. And so you must be crazy, psychotic, breaking down. But that only accounts for the way the brain is experiencing something, not for the way the body is. And when we look at it from a body perspective, PTSD, your body is experiencing that memory again, right? And even though your brain can say, I'm fine, I'm okay, your body is saying, I most certainly am not.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. So that right away tells us, okay, there's something different happening with the way the body's experiencing and the way the body is holding the memory of that. The brain knows that it's a past memory, but the body doesn't know it's in the past. And these kinds of markers are what can help us start to identify, oh, my body is holding something. So we can look at like your activators, your triggers. Trigger is usually the more common word.
Mm.
So you're on the street and a car horn honks and your system jumps. That's normal. That's okay. But are you able to calm down afterwards? Are you able to come back to yourself, or do you stay in that panicky state? Because often, if you've had a kind of trauma experience, your system doesn't have that same ability to drop back down with ease, within a reasonable time frame, whatever that is for folks. And the coming home to yourself, the like, oh, I'm okay now feeling, that's much, much harder for folks who've experienced trauma to do in their system. And I think that can be like one of the big signs that maybe there's something being held in your body. But I think it's also important to note it doesn't necessarily have to just be trauma that we're holding in our body. You're holding memories of everything in your body. So the first time you held somebody's hand, that first experience of contact, physical love, being in a relationship, the butterflies, your body also has memories of that. And that we can look at the small ways that your body, is imprinted, had like a blueprint laid on it for the way we would then go through life and experience it. That the next time you hold somebody's hand, you could ask your body, what did you feel like the first time you did that? What was that experience like for you? And that often that actually sets the tone for the way that your body responds to every hand holding after that, whether it's discomfort or like really wanting it, or like, I want you to touch me, but I don't want you to touch me. There's layers. We can unpack that because your body was imprinted, right? There's that blueprint. And so the body holds all of it. Your body's holding all of it.
Our bodies are amazing. More than we'll ever know.
Yes.
So if our body's holding all these different maps, how do they manifest? Like what would it look like if it is a great memory, or if it's not so great?
Mm-hmm. So we can track those using sensations. So you'll hear a lot of this phrase, felt sense, or using the word sensation, your sensory ability. So when you think about having butterflies in your stomach, for example, what is that feeling in your body? What does that feel like? Oh, it feels like kind of wobbly. There's like a quiver. It feels quick. It feels kind of like high. It doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel like a fun wobble. Like when you're excited has a wobble and an energy, but it's not like that. It's different. It feels kind of like an icky, quick shake.
Yeah.
And all of those words, icky, quick, shaky, they're describing the experience that I'm having inside of my body. And an easy way for us to kind of get there is you're having a feeling and asking yourself, what am I feeling? What am I sensing in my body that tells me that that is what I'm feeling right now? So sad, I feel sad. What do I feel in my body that tells me it's sadness and not fear, or not joy, or not anger? All very different experiences. But what am I feeling, sensing in my body that distinguishes those for me?
Right. You on your website, you have a little sentence which I really love and I'd love to dive into. You've got this bottom-up approach to healing trauma unhealthy coping mechanisms, anxiety, and teaches you how to use your body's natural wisdom as a sustainable healing practice. I mean, firstly, wow, sustainable healing practice. I mean, we all want that. How do we start this process? I mean, you've mentioned, describing those feelings. How else do we start this process of healing?
I think the first step, like, we hear in so many different practices, is the awareness, is the desire to make that shift, to take that accountability, to go on that journey. And that I think we have to continue to make that choice, because there will be repeated moments where it'll get harder and harder and harder. And you have to keep deciding to go into that.
Yeah.
And that's hard. That's a tough one. It's a tough one to sign on to.
Because it's unpleasant.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. I think I had made a video recently with an audio that said, do I like it? No. Do I do it anyways? Yes. And that felt very specific to the way this experience can go sometimes, is like, yeah, I don't enjoy it. It's not fun. And I know I got to do it. I know it's almost like, that idea of eating your vegetables as a kid.
Exactly. It's good for you.
It's good for you. I might not like it at the beginning, but I'm going to learn how to do this. And so where to begin is really at where you are. And I say that because each of us are going to be at a different place with ourselves. Some of us are going to be, realizing, oh my gosh, I've got so much work to do. Some of us are going to just be coming to terms with, wow, I didn't even know that I was treating myself poorly. And so there is, I think, so much in the beginning that can feel overwhelming, of like, oh my God, how am I going to get up this mountain? And that I think the most powerful thing we can give ourselves is the patience and the permission that it's okay to be right where you are. You don't have to be further along the path. It's okay that you didn't know before. We know now. We can see it now. And so that first step, I think, really is about the kindness to yourself. It's about the patience to say, okay, this is where we are. Let's pause here and just take stock of how that feels. And then I think the next step is starting to practice going towards yourself. How do I go inwards? How do I choose me more frequently? How do I choose, and not from the lens of ignoring the other people in our life or cutting them all out. Sometimes that needs to happen from a healthy standpoint, but more from the more like grounded, deep place of prioritizing yourself because you're worth taking care of.
Absolutely. It's such a huge one. And that permission and patience and kindness, we're so quick to give that to others.
Yeah.
But yet we don't do that for ourselves. It's super important. So how do we identify coping mechanisms? You had a post recently about red flags and coping mechanisms. And on there, I'm like, oh my God, that's me. I do that. So mine was like shutting down and, turning into the Terminator. Well, minus the terminating bit, because I don't do that. But like switching off and just, there's a job to be done, so just go and do it. And like everything else shuts down. Like, okay, well, it's good to know that that's what I do. And that's what I'm, that's how I experience getting through something. And I didn't even know I did that. So how do we need to identify these coping mechanisms first to, I guess also begin that healing process? Or do we find these out along the way?
I think we find them out along the way, and that your coping mechanisms will become more clear the deeper and deeper you go, because there's layers in your coping mechanisms. So for me, a big one that I fall back on is, which is funny as a body-based person, is going cognitive. Well, if I can explain what's happening and if I can tell you why it's happening, if I use all my psychology knowledge to understand it, then I don't have to feel it. I can just completely avoid anything from the neck down, and I'll just stay right up here where it's safe. And so the coping mechanisms, it's not that they go away.
Yeah.
If anything, you're just going to uncover deeper and deeper layers of those. That's a mechanism I've used for a long time, for most of my adult life, and even, into my younger years. That's where I feel safe, is if I can control it, if I can understand it, then I'm in charge of it. But if we're in the feeling, if we're in the body, it feels like it's in charge over us.
Yeah.
And that's so scary. It's so scary to feel like you're in the storm and you just have to wait. That waiting is hard. It's so hard to do. Yeah.
Can I at least take an umbrella? You can do this.
My steering wheel's broken. My sails are gone.
Okay, so once we understand we need to be in it and just experience it, like how do we do this, or what can we do to potentially make it easier to sit in?
Totally. I think that's a really good question, because I think there's different sides to everything, right? There's always a spectrum. There's one extreme and then the other. And so sometimes I use this metaphor of talking about our feelings like water, right? That makes sense, that they're so flowy, there can be so much of them or not enough. And as we do this work, we're getting to know our feelings. And so we have a pool. There's your water. There's the size of the container. Or sometimes it feels like a dam. It feels like a river and it's rushing and I am blocking it off. And some people, their system, when the feeling is there, they feel like they're drowning. They feel like if there's any sign of the water, any sign of the emotion, all of a sudden they're deep in the river. They're deep in that deep end and they're flailing. They can't swim. It's just they're taking the water into their lungs. It's so much and it's too much. And folks like that, what's really important is for us to notice, every time I have a feeling, the feeling drowns me. That's our first step, is establishing what is happening, what the pattern is here. Oh, wow, actually, every time I have a feeling, it feels like too much. Why? What's that about? And then, so folks like that who are having drowning experiences, the key for them is, how do we take you out of the water to observe how you got in the water? Have you had experiences that kind of set you up to drown? No one ever taught me how to have compassion for myself. No one ever validated me. No one ever taught me how to navigate a big feeling. Okay, you didn't know how to do that. So it makes sense that anytime a big feeling comes up, boom, into the deep end. No one taught you how to swim. Okay, that's good to know. And so we can build tools that help us do that. And then there's folks who are on the other end, right? And sometimes we have a little bit of both, and that's normal too. But folks who, when they have a feeling, they're outside the water and they're like, yeah, I can see it over there, but I don't, maybe if I don't look at it, it won't come get me.
Yeah.
If I look the other way long enough, it'll just go away.
Yeah.
And folks like that, again, noticing, every time a feeling comes up, I want to run, I want to shut it down, I want to get away from it. Okay, noticing, right? That's our first step. And then the trick is, okay, how can we actually just put one toe in the water? Does that feel okay? Because what predetermined you, what set you up to not be able to go in the water? Oh, well, when I was a kid, I got thrown into the deep end and it was too much. And that taught me that the water was scary. The water wasn't safe. And so Anytime I see water, I'm like, absolutely not going anywhere near it. Oh my gosh, that makes so much sense. So you would need help relearning how to be in that water. Again, nobody taught you how to swim. And so by doing these practices, okay, how can you get more comfortable with the water? How can you start to build a relationship where you can put one foot in at a time? And oftentimes, really what we refer to that as is titrating. How do I go in a little bit and then out a little bit? And that these kinds of approaches really can be the tools that we use for when the feeling comes up. The coping mechanism is the way that our survival instinct taught us to deal with it. That actually is brilliant and so smart. Your system was like, that was too much. Okay, so we shut it down. It's amazing. I'm so glad your system knew how to do that, because that is, you survived. And I'm so glad that you survived so you could get here today. And now that you're here and you're okay, now that you're here and you have a little more stability, let's look back in time and see what you needed then that you didn't get. Oh, you needed to learn how to swim. You needed to learn how to have a relationship with the water. And that is kind of how we can start to build those coping mechanisms in a healthier way. So
Yeah.
that when it is happening, you can balance yourself and navigate through it.
Yeah. Well, you just mentioned when it is happening.
Mhm.
What happens when it is unfolding in the present moment? We are overwhelmed with feelings. It's not like we can just stop and go, okay, see ya, I'm out of here. I mean, some people can, I guess.
Sometimes we
But like,
do.
yeah, exactly. But I guess, is there something that, we can reassure ourselves of in that
Mm.
unfolding moment?
I think the first tool, right? Like, what is a tangible tool I can use when it's happening? The first one across the board is pausing.
Mm,
It's happening. It's happening. Yeah, I see it's happening. So let's take a second and just say, oh, it's happening. Just the acknowledgement,
yeah.
right? And we have to pause in order to acknowledge it, because sometimes we're in the revving, but we're not saying, oh, I'm revving up right now. The car is started. We're just, oh, the car is going, and then I've
Yeah.
got the wheel, and okay, here we go. So the pause, and for me, the way that I do that is with the breath.
Mm,
Typically, there are signs from our body that tell us we're revving up or we're dissociating. And those markers, we want to look for those, whether that is I can't feel my body right now, I'm not breathing, my heart is racing, my eyes are wide, whatever those little cues are, those cues are a marker for us to pause. And the pause allows us to kind of take a moment and decide, okay, how do I observe myself? How do I notice what's happening? But that to get to the observation deck, you have to pause. We
yeah.
have to be willing to take a breath. And I think I very much know that folks with anxiety, for example, don't need another person telling them, like, you should try to breathe. They're like, no shit.
Exactly. Thanks, Sherlock.
Yeah, exactly. They're like, of course I should breathe, but I'm telling you, I can't. You're
Mm,
right. You can't breathe right now. Let's notice that. Yeah. Wow. You can't breathe right now. That sounds really difficult. That sounds really hard. But that statement, that acknowledgement does something. The witnessing experience, it validates the experience you're having. And that so often is the experience we didn't get as kids. Our parents didn't say, yeah, I get that you fell down and you skinned your knee and that hurts. They jump straight to, you're fine, you're okay, get back up. And so that's what we do with ourselves. We go straight into the fixing, make it stop. I'm supposed to be fine. I should be better by now.
yeah.
Instead of pausing and slowing down to say, whoa, I'm having a panic attack right now.
Mm,
And again, the breath, the noticing, and I think connecting with your body, right? How do I connect with my body in that moment? And For me, the way that I think I'm catching myself doing it right now, for me, it's my hand on my chest, that this is the way that I tell my body, yeah, I see it. I see you're having a panic attack right now, and I'm here. I'm not fixing it. I'm not doing anything about it. I'm just here with her.
Wow. So powerful. I've
Mhm.
I've certainly experienced the breathing and how much that can just help bring you back to yourself
Mhm.
in that moment, as much as you don't want to be at times, which is fair enough. But having uh, that consistent breathing practice, I've
Mhm.
also noticed when those moments are unfolding, I am able to better manage it. And like you said earlier on, I'm able to then come back down from that heightened sense easier and quicker. And to the point where I've gone, oh, I'm okay. Made it through that. Good one,
Yeah.
Jackie.
Exactly. And that there's a relationship. There's that moment at the end where you congratulate yourself. Oh,
Yeah,
I did it. We did this.
exactly.
Absolutely.
So
And
we go
I
on.
just wanted to add one more piece. So the breath
Yeah.
sometimes can feel so controversial because it's so slow and the anxiety we're having is so fast.
Yeah.
And so sometimes the change of speed is really important. It brings us back down. But I've actually found that sometimes it's like with kids. You're revved up, you need to run around. Great. Let's run around.
Yeah.
And so sometimes you're having anxiety, run it off.
Go run. True.
I when I worked with teenage boys, let's do 20 push-ups right now. You're
Yeah.
having a panic attack and you can't breathe. Let's put your body in a situation where it has to breathe. And that can feel really, again, counterintuitive, but you're matching the speed that your body is going at and then slowly bringing yourself back down rather than that like hard stop. And sometimes that can be helpful as well.
Wow, absolutely. Oh, good one. Do these is this a forever practice? I feel like that's a given. It should be, because obviously, we eat healthy. That should be forever done. We exercise. We should be doing that forever, because, we need a strong body. We need a mobile body to live and do the things we love. Is this also a forever exercise?
Absolutely. I think you mentioned that statement on my website that has the word sustainable in
Yeah.
it. And that really, that is a big part of, what I want folks to know going into this. This is something you're going to be practicing for the rest of your
Mm.
life, but that it's not meant to put your life on such a hard stop after a while. You'll be able to integrate these tools. You'll have more of like a fluidity. Like the first time you discover nutrition, you have to radically change your diet. You radically change your life choices. And after a while, it isn't such a radical change because your environment is actually set up to support it.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Oh, that's beautifully said. You, on your Instagram page, because that's what I love about you, you've got all this goodness on your page. You've got this carousel post, and I'd love for you to explain it here. You've said the top reasons your healing needs you to listen to your body. One, your body has an opinion. Two, your sensory is a time machine. Three, your body is the way to your inner child. And four, we feel it to heal it. Can we start at one? Your body has an opinion.
Oh, I love this one because it does. It so very much does. And I think people hear that and it doesn't make sense
Yeah.
because my body is the vehicle that takes me through my life. But really, from the somatic lens, your body has been impacted, right? That blueprint. And so if your body was impacted, that means that it was affected. And if it's affected, that means something happened to change it. And just like for us, if something happened to change our experience, we would have something to say about that. That was hard. That was easy. That was fun. That was awful. Your body has the same thing. So when we do this work, we are tuning in to listen, almost like we're personifying the body, like it's almost like a separate individual. Sometimes I even, with clients will say, let's invite your body to the table. And if you could sit and have a conversation with your body, if your body could literally, without the head attached, without your brain, tell you how it has been impacted, how it was affected through your life experiences, what would it say? And I know for myself, when I sat down and did that, ooh, she had a lot to say.
Yeah, exactly.
She had a lot to say.
You were there for a while?
Oh yeah, still there actually.
Yeah.
Still there.
Wow.
And that can be, again, so scary, because for myself, I think about the period of my life where I was, drinking to excess. And I, when I sit down with my body and I ask her, what was that like for you? She's pissed off. She is very upset that I did that to her. That all of the things she was saying, this doesn't feel good, this doesn't feel safe. And I was like, I don't care. I'm going to keep putting a substance into you. I'm going to keep doing this because I can't actually deal with you right now.
Yeah, we're going to quieten you up.
Exactly. I'm just going to drown you out. And that having to sit face to face with the person that I did that to, me, my body, that is hard. That is hard to sit in front of that.
Yeah. And even just hearing that, it makes me think, what are the times where I've sort of tried to drown out the sounds that my body is trying to make?
Yeah, absolutely. Right. How often do we get clammy hands and our heart starts racing and we're going, no, I'm fine. I'm fine. And we're insisting that we're fine.
Yeah, totally.
When we're very clearly not.
Yeah. Huge.
Yeah.
Number 2, your sensory is a time machine.
So this takes us to the idea that your memories are in your body, right? That, like the PTSD conversation in a way. Your body was affected and imprinted when that experience happened. So let's say a car accident, for example. If you haven't fully processed that, and that when I say fully processed, that can be a lifelong practice, right? We go through it in different levels. You might have processed it on that surface. I'm okay now. I've learned to get back in a car. I drive myself to work, things like that. But on that next layer down, there is a memory in your body of what it was like to be in that. Whether that was the fear, the panic, maybe you got out of the car fine and maybe the person in the car with you wasn't fine. And there's a memory in your body of that experience. And anytime in our present day life, something reminds our body of that experience, maybe you watch a car crash happen, or maybe you hear a car back into another car. It doesn't have to be something big. It's just about the familiarness, or maybe a siren goes by on an ambulance. The familiarness for your body reactivates that memory. And that is something we can then work with, because that tells us, okay, there's a part of that memory in your body that's ready to be worked with again, because it's showing up. If it's showing up, it's ready. And we can do kind of a introspective listening process and follow that sensation back. I was standing on the street, I heard the siren, my heart was pounding, I was sweaty, and I couldn't feel my feet. Okay, so something's happening. Sit with it, stay with it. When was another time that you felt panic like that? Oh my God, I felt panic like this when I was in a car accident when I was 7. Oh yeah, that would be scary. I would feel panic too. What was that like? I couldn't get out of the car and I couldn't reach my mom and I was helpless. I couldn't do anything. Oh yeah, you were helpless. You couldn't do anything. And that's the time travel. Even though you're sitting here with me today as an adult, not in the car, that memory can bring us all the way back. The physical sensation is our pathway back. That's the time machine. And we can then help you process what that experience was like. We can get 7-year-old you the support, the affirmation, the validation of, yeah, that was scary and you're okay now. Yeah, that was really awful that happened. I'm so sorry. And we're okay now. And that's the connection piece. That's how we do the healing with the somatics.
Wow. Number 3.
I feel like that was such a big chunk.
That was
that was a big
feeling
chunk.
that one.
Yeah, absolutely. And so like, again, this is an invitation, like, ooh, yeah, like that is so scary and powerful to realize, right? That oh my God, my body's been carrying that with me.
Exactly.
Whoa. Yeah. And so, yeah, I think just noticing that, like, as we deepen into this conversation, that experience is here with us, that, you and I have had experiences that we're going to touch on lightly, and our bodies have been carrying those with us.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Incredible. Number 3, your body is the way to your inner child.
So this pairs really with that second point. Exactly. It's that time machine. It's the way to your inner child, because that sensation, when was the first time you felt that? Where did you learn that? Oh, I learned it in this experience as a child. And I use the term child loosely, because our brain doesn't actually finish developing until we're 25. So that's much later. Most people are thinking, like 0 to 10. But I'm very much including your teen years and your early adult years, that you are still forming an understanding of yourself. You're still having very significant first experiences. And I've even worked with folks who, got married in their 30s, let's say, and then went through a divorce. And then upon getting married again, we're having all of these experiences. And we're like, what's going on? Well, something's reminding your body of the last time you did this. And so it's really about the firsts. It's about the significant imprints that are made. And that it does give us access to that inner child, to those inner selves in this like supercharged, tunnel, like just shoot right there.
Yeah. Get on the freeway.
Yeah. Exactly.
Oh, wow. Question, it just flew out of my head. You said body and the experience. Oh no, it'll come back to me. It'll come back. Until then, we're on 4.
All right.
We feel it to heal it.
So this is actually from an article that I had read by a psychotherapist named Jen Taylor. And she was really focusing on the way that we use our sensory and our feeling experience to fully process something. And that she had pulled that from Dan Siegel's We Name It to Tame It. So he's I want to say a neuroscientist, psychotherapist blend, and had really looked at how powerful it was for us to name our experience, for us to be able to say, oh, this feeling I'm having is called anxiety. And it gives us a sense of control. Oh, and now that I know that's what it is, now I can do something about it. So we name it to tame it, but that doesn't necessarily fix it. It doesn't fully complete the loop, right? And Jen Taylor offered this idea that we feel it to heal it, that we come full circle, that actually by being with the emotion, validating it, acknowledging it, and then offering it what it needs, that's really the healing. But that you have to stay with it, you have to be with it in order to heal it. And that is something we're doing from a sensory perspective. That's really, I see that's the missing link in so many of the cognitive talk therapies. You're talking about it, but you're not necessarily feeling it.
Yeah. I thought of something as you were saying that. So the name it to tame it. So let's just say something's really, well, something's pissed me off and I feel like the Hulk. So I'm naming it. It's the Hulk. That's my Hulk reaction.
Right.
So I've named it. Now feeling it and healing it.
Right. Okay. So I feel like the Hulk. What tells you that? What is the experience you're having in your body that says, oh, I'm angry? And what's the difference between anger and rage? Is it rage you're feeling or anger? Or maybe it's frustration? Is it disappointment? Like what exactly kind of big heated activation is it? And so like really diving in, getting really clear and curious. That's our first step, right? The naming it. And then the feeling to healing it. Ooh, I feel it's rage. It feels big. It feels hot. I feel like I could bust out of my body. I actually feel, I'm going to get hot doing this example.
I think I'm getting like all burning.
Got a little warm. So like, okay, I feel powerful. I feel big, but I feel like I could break stuff. It feels huge. Yeah. Can you stay with that? Can we just pause here and stay with it? Because what is it like to stay with a feeling that big, with an energy like that? For some people, I can't. That feels so scary.
Too much.
I'm scared of myself right now. For some people, this feels powerful. I want to stay here and I never want to leave. And there's variations of what it's like to be there, what it's like to feel that. And then from there, we can start to get curious. Oh, it's scary to feel that angry. It's scary to feel that rageful. Why is that? Who taught you that anger was something to be feared? Oh, actually, I remember seeing my dad be angry when I was a kid. And there is our inner child piece. There's our connection. There's our track or all the way down. Okay, we keep feeling it. Yeah, I feel first anger, then scared. And what was it like to be scared as a kid? It was really isolating. It was really lonely. I was by myself and I didn't know what to do. Okay. And that, can we feel that? Keep feeling that. And what did you need? I needed someone to tell me that it wasn't my fault. I needed to feel safe. I needed to feel taken care of. Okay, let's get you those things right now. And that's where the healing is, right? We follow all the feelings one to the other, or the folks that, I feel powerful here. Yeah. What's it like to feel powerful? Oh, I never want to let go. Oh, okay, because what would it be like if you let go? Oh, I'm afraid I would fall apart and I would never put myself back together again. Okay, actually, so under that is fear. There's this feeling I want to stay here so I don't feel fear. Because what would it be like to feel the fear? Oh, I would fall apart and I wouldn't get back together. Oh, and what would that be like? It feels like I would die. Okay, so we feel that. And when was the first time you felt like that? I was a kid. My dad was angry. I didn't know how to control it. It can be such similar pieces, but it's following the feelings, asking, okay, and what's underneath that? What's underneath that? What's underneath that? And then giving you what you really needed in there. And there's our full circle.
That is so incredible. I feel like I'm getting a session myself right now. Incredible. So it's like connecting all those dots.
Sometimes I use this image of like, the police board with all the red string connecting to all the parts. It's like that, because as soon as we start to feel one of those things, well, actually that connects here and that connects there and that connects over there as well. And that multi-connectedness is the multi-dimensionality of humans. Of us. And that complexity is magical and beautiful, but also at the same time, so simple. The thing that we really want underneath is always the same. I want to be heard. I want to be seen. I want to know that I'm allowed to feel this. And I want to know that I'm not too much in this space. I'm accepted the way that with this experience.
And safe.
I'm safe. Yeah, I'm safe to go there.
Wow. Okay. So I wanted to talk about anxiety. And especially I feel like I feel like a broken record, actually. I feel like COVID comes up quite a lot. And, for good reason. It's impacted a lot of lives, a lot of different ways. And I feel like anxiety is more prevalent now, potentially, than it may have been pre-COVID. What do we need to know about anxiety in order to better manage it?
I think the first thing is that validation. It's okay to have anxiety. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing broken about you for having that experience. That's okay. I experience it. I experience it quite a bit. The second piece is the understanding. It makes sense that anxiety has risen during the last, 2-ish, give or take, years during this COVID experience, because the state of our lives is constantly in this I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow place. The not knowing really creates a sense of lack of safety, right? And so it makes sense that you feel anxious because there's not a knowing of am I safe? There's not a trust or a place to land in that way. And so again, it's okay to have that experience. It makes sense to have that. And now that it is here, now that we've validated it, now that we've kind of come to terms with it, what do you need to feel like you could take a breath? Is that a practice of self-care that needs to be formed to take more care of yourself? Your system is saying it's hyperactivated a lot right now. That might mean that you need to learn some new tools to take care of yourself. Does it mean that you need to shift some things in your life? Maybe that means I actually feel safer working from home now. Okay, so how can you ask for what you need? How do you feel like you're allowed to ask for what you need? Oh, I actually don't feel comfortable seeing family for the holidays because I don't know who has been where, and I feel scared of contracting something. How do you ask for what you need? How do you feel like you have permission to say, I'm taking care of myself right now? And these tools, asking for what you need, shifting and making different choices, I think those are the ways that we meet ourselves in the experience of anxiety. I think so often we rush to, like we talked about, the push it away. I don't want to feel anxious. That makes sense. Anxiety is not comfortable. It's actually like skin crawly and itchy and awful. But it is here. And now that it is here, how can we grieve the shift? Wow, I didn't experience anxiety before and I do now. There's actually a loss. There's a loss of the freedom or the safety. Traveling, for example, I used to want to go here, I used to want to go there, and now I feel scared to do things that used to make me feel excited or alive or joy. There's a loss, and I think grieving that shift is also important. Really recognizing the way that this experience has impacted us. And again, I understand why it would be hard to level with the fact that you've developed, so to speak, the anxiety in the last few years. That's okay. And it is a bummer. You're right. That is hard. That is sad.
Yeah.
And so there's, we can go both directions. We can go towards the holding, the fixing, the changing. We can go towards the wow, what changed, looking at the past. But I think before we go either direction, it's really important for us to start with what is right now. And affirming and validating it's okay to have that experience right now. There's nothing wrong with you. This is a human having a human experience. Things in our human life are anxiety provoking, and that's okay.
Yeah. Compassion for
Yeah.
ourselves. And you said it before, and I said it before, it's so easy to have that for others. And why actually is it hard to have compassion for ourselves?
It's not role modeled to us very often. That our parents might have compassion for us, but they won't have it for themselves. And so that I know what they're trying to teach me is that I'm worthy of compassion by giving me that compassion. But I'm watching you not give it to yourself. So that probably means that I'm supposed to give it because that's what you're doing. You're giving it, but you're not receiving it. You're not doing it for yourself. So I'll go out in the world and I'll do that too. I'll give it, but I won't bring it here.
Holy cow. My skin is just all goosebumpy.
And it also, it's in our home, but it's also like it's cultural. That I think, the last, I think, I see it with Gen Z more, that having a therapist is very common. Kids are much more comfortable talking about these things. And there's still quite a bit of stigma around what it would mean to do that or to need that. Oh, well, you're needy. Don't, that's embarrassing. That you're talking to yourself. You must be crazy. There's all these narratives that we hear about what it means to give compassion to ourselves. And often there's this, that inner critic, that story that says you're not worthy of that. You should have done better. You should try harder. And I think that is like the reality of the way we experience the world. You got sick and you have to apply for sick leave. You have to quantify for somebody else that I am allowed to take this time, right? Or I can't make it to lunch because I have low energy today. Well, you must be blowing me off. That's actually totally rude of you. I'm not important to you. That there are, it's so complicated, the world we live in, because in relationship, taking care of ourselves can feel complex. And so there's layers to all of these pieces.
So many layers. And you just mentioned, that blowing someone off and just, afraid of what they could think. I've been in that, we've all been in that situation where, we've either bumped into a mate or, at the shops or whatever it is, and they've just, haven't been in a great mood for whatever reason. And we've automatically thought it's ourselves. And like, why? What is that? What's our need to people please and continually show up for others rather than ourselves?
Yeah, it's a tough one. And we do it for so many different reasons. I think, where we always start is, who taught you to people please? Who taught you that was how to do it? And I know for myself, when I've dug into my own layers of what is causing me to people please, well, there's a feeling that actually, if I was to prioritize myself, that this person wouldn't want to spend time with me anymore. They would perceive me as selfish. That would make me entitled. If they don't feel like they're a priority, that would make them feel bad. And so I wouldn't want to do that. And so I will compromise myself. I'll go when I'm tired. I'll show up. I'll answer the phone even though I'm sick and my throat is sore, whatever it is. Or I won't say no at work. I'll take on that project, because what I've done in my system is tell myself that that person's comfort is more important than my comfort. And it is, in a way, we see it as like a caretaking action, but really what it does is say that I don't think that you can handle me not doing this. If I said, no, I can't do that, and my boss is upset, and I say, that's okay, I'll do it. I'm under the assumption that they don't have the capacity to deal with that feeling. I'm caretaking them because they can't do it. And that's not actually a caretaking kind thing. That's my own discomfort. That's a little bit of a slight in a way. And again, there's layers on that top layer. Oh, she's so nice. Oh, she was out of her way for everyone. But in a way, it's because you don't think any of them can handle their own stuff. I would rather me deal with the feelings than you, because I don't think you can deal with that feeling. not actually a kind action. Even though on that top layer, even though we think we're being so nice, pleasing other people,
Yeah.
you're not actually taking care of them at all. You're actually doing the both of you a disservice, because you also get to ignore your own stuff then. I'll just continue to compromise, continue to compromise, continue to compromise. You're not taking care of you. You're not really taking care of them. And now you're in this loop where I get to be resentful that you keep giving me projects at work. You did that to me. Ugh, that friend, they just keep calling and they won't stop. And I just like don't know how to say no. And I feel bad because if I say no, then they'll think I'm mean. Well, you do keep picking up the phone.
Yeah.
How would they know to stop? Well, they'll think I'm mean. Well, that would be unpleasant. And then maybe they would stop calling. But I would have to sit with the unpleasantness, right? And there's that push. Oh, I don't want to do that. Oh, I don't want to see that. And it traps us. It gets us stuck.
It does. Oh my goodness. So many actions I recognize in myself. And I know others would be thinking the same. Holy cow. Right. Okay.
Ooh.
Breath, exactly. Yeah. Let's take a breath. Okay.
Absolutely.
Well, that actually segues quite nicely into this next question. How can we help and support our friends or family when we recognize any of this behavior?
Yeah. I think our instinct is always to fix. Let me help you. Let me fix it. Well, you're anxious. I read a book about breathing. You should breathe more, right? And that's where we get that very, very kind, but unintentioned, uncomfortable conversation. So I think a better approach is asking, hey, I've been noticing that you haven't been around as much, and I wanted to just check in. Is there anything that you need that I could do for you, that I could show up with? And that lets them decide what it is that they want, what it is that they need. Maybe they do need some solutions, or maybe they just need someone to listen. But the asking gives it to them to decide, because us assuming that we know what's best for them isn't ever really that helpful, unfortunately. It's so well intentioned, and it's with care, and it's with love, but that's usually what we need. That's what we would want. Is that what they really want? And I know for myself, I have a younger sister, and this is something that I've learned time and time again with her. We both experience anxiety, but in very different ways. And what I need when I'm anxious is not what she needs when she's anxious. And that was a hard learning edge initially. No, here, we can do this thing. Like we can fix it. We can be okay. And she was like, stop, you're making it worse. And I was like, how am I making it worse? Oh my God. What?
But don't you understand this will work?
Yes, if I could just explain it to you correctly. And it made me pause, right? And there's that word again, like, okay, I have to pause. And then I have to ask her, okay, what do you need? What do you want? What can I do to support you? And I think that also really invites them to be in charge, right? Which can be so hard for us when we feel icky, or when we're in that slump, or we're in a pattern of not asking for help. Somebody reaching out saying, hey, I just want to check in on you. I'm here. Is there anything that you need from me? Yeah. It invites us to take our own action and say, yeah, there is something I need. And let me be clear about what that is.
Yeah, super powerful. Stephanie, this has been the most incredible conversation. If people want to find out more about you and what you do, where can they find you?
Absolutely. So the best place is either on my Instagram, like we've mentioned a few times, and my handle is Stephanie Somatics with an S at the end. And then my website is stephaniesomatics.com. So nice and easy, same name, easy to find. Right now, I am just coming off the tail end of a lot of big projects in my personal life, some big transitions. And so I am only working with folks individually right now. And so if people want to reach out to me to do that, to work with me personally, to do that individual work, the link is both on my website and on my Instagram. Super easy to find. You can schedule a consultation. I'm happy to connect and talk a little bit about how this might work for folks. And for people that are wanting like something tangible right now, I do have a free journal that is also on my website and Instagram. And that journal will have some prompts, some activities, a lot that we've talked about today, some exercises. And that was really made to be recycled over and over again. That's not like a one-time fill out. You can do those over and over, which is great.
Amazing.
Yes. And then for folks who are okay with waiting just a little bit, I am in the process of getting ready to release a workbook and doing a class, things like that. And all of that is on my website. If folks want to be notified for that, there are some email lists that you can sign up for.
Oh, wonderful. That all sounds amazing.
Yeah.
Coming up in the new year, maybe?
Yes, fingers crossed. We'll be able to get this book out by the end of winter. So it's been an interesting shift to do what, this person to person experience, to try to put that on paper has been a lot of learning, and many starts and stops and rewrites and start and stops again. So
just like life.
Yes, absolutely. Very, very on point.
Wonderful. This has been amazing. I have one last question for you. What are some simple tools that we can start with right now to feel at home or at ease or trust in our body?
I think the first one is the pause and the coming towards of yourself, and having the desire to make that connection with your body, offering it kindness and patience. And that can be something simple like a body scan, starting to integrate the body awareness into your day-to-day life, whether that is doing a literal check-in. How does my chest feel? How does my belly feel? But it also can be something really simple, like when I walk to my car, I try to feel my feet, just to have this awareness, oh, I'm inside my body right now. And that simple little redirects like that can be really powerful as we weave them in on our day-to-day life.
Incredible. You're amazing. Stephanie, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much, Jackie. This was so much fun.
It really was.